Fans were stunned when the star was arrested.
William Hayden from Sons of Guns was once a huge reality TV star, but then everyone found out who Will really is.
He threatened to kill her. Yeah.
And what came out was so bad that it led to the cancellation of the show, as well as some serious legal trouble for Will.
Charges of child molestation and the aggravated rape of a minor.
But what happened, and what did he actually do? You'll never believe the disturbing story. Will committed a whole list of the most horrendous crimes, which is why he was sentenced to life behind bars. He got not 1, but 3 life imprisonments, plus an extra 40 years on top. He committed his heinous acts against 2 young girls. Both of them were minors at the time. One of these crimes happened in the 90s, and the other one happened in the 2000s in East Baton Rouge Parish. This was obviously horrible and disgusting, and it was also a huge blow to Sons of Gun and the network Discovery Channel. From 2011 to 2014, the adrenaline-fueled series took viewers on a journey into the heart of Red Jacket Firearms LLC. And who was at the helm of this fiery enterprise? None other than the charismatic Will, with his sharp-witted daughter Stephanie and his trusty sidekick. Every episode was a nail-biting experience. Every single segment was a heart-pounding reminder not to try any of these stunts at home unless you were eager for a visit from the local authorities. But the series took an unexpected nosedive into the murky waters of controversy, one that it could not overcome ever again. All it took was a single controversy to bring everything down. But that controversy did more damage to Will than to the show. It was a story that no one saw coming. The headlines revealed the unthinkable: a Sons of Guns cast member arrested and charged with harming a juvenile. This was the kind of threat that could dismantle Will's whole legacy. But it was just the start. As the news broke, it sent ripples of disbelief through the community, with Will strongly denying the charges. He claimed that they were the concoction of a vindictive ex-girlfriend, but the gravity of the situation couldn't be ignored. Will managed to get out on bail through a hefty bond initially, but the fallout was swift and severe. On August 27, 2014, the show was axed. But what caused this dramatic curtain call? Will, the Discovery Channel promptly announced the cancellation of the Sons of Gun series in light of the distressing allegations against Will. And the channel didn't just cancel the show out of the blue without providing answers. Lori Goldberg from Discovery Channel spoke on behalf of the network and explained why this had to be done and how everything was Will's doing. His past had caught up to him and the show, and now the damage was too deep to be reverted. Consequently, the show had to be off air. Lori emphasized the seriousness of the charges, leading to the abrupt halt of any further production. The once celebrated show that had shone a spotlight on Will's shop and now marred by the shadow of the disturbing accusations, and then Will faced yet another arrest, this time on charges of aggravated harm of adult nature. Apparently, another victim came forward. The details that emerged were nothing short of terrifying. The victim was an 11-year-old who had reportedly endured a horrible ordeal spanning over a year. There were allegations of daily harm coupled with threats that kept her silent. 2 victims coming out to speak against Will meant that this was no longer a case of defamation or misunderstanding. This meant another prison call. So the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison saw Will once again, this time with a staggering bond set to $250,000. In simpler words, he wasn't about to get bailed out this time around. Not that easily, at least. This was when people started realizing his reality. The ones who initially supported him turned their backs on him. The CEO of Red Jacket Firearms, Joseph Moe, was quick to announce Will's separation from the company following the initial arrest in a bid to contain the damage done by the scandal. In an exclusive interview with Fox 411, Joseph recounted his initial shock at the allegations and standing by Will's side in disbelief. However, as more voices joined the chorus, his perspective began to shift. He then revealed how Will had the tendency to have a criminal mind. Joseph went on to expose the darker layers of Will's character, his alleged manipulations, and the conflicts that brewed beneath the surface of their once collaborative relationship. By this time, the audience had made up their minds about Will. But what about the show? A single cast member didn't have the right to shape the future of a high-profile reality show. But sadly, this is exactly how everything panned out. There was no hope of the show ever returning, even with a different cast, because let's be honest, the legal chaos made one thing quite certain: the legacy of the the show and its certain figure Will was forever tarnished already. But despite the clouds of uncertainty hovering over the entire saga, Will's network continued to shine thanks to his past triumphs as a businessman and television star. But it wouldn't be long before he would lose this too, because what happened next was the final nail in the coffin. After the 2 allegations, his case didn't exactly need any more points working against him. But then another victim came forward. But this wasn't just a random person. It was his own daughter this time, his own flesh and blood, as well as his co-star from the show, Stephanie Hayden. Surprisingly, she had initially testified in favor of her father, but she later changed her statement. She made a shocking appearance on the Dr. Phil show back in 2014, and she claimed that her father had attempted to violate her under the influence. This admission changed the game. Will's bail skyrocketed once again. It increased to $350,000. This time, even Will's legal team realized that there was no going around this. He had brought this upon himself, so his legal defense team underwent changes left and right. It was like nobody was willing to lead his case anymore. It was pretty one-sided anyway. His private lawyers stepped back one by one, all refusing to take his case, until eventually a public defender took the reins. Frank Holthouse tried his level best to turn things around. He cautioned against rushing to judgment, citing past cases of false accusations and reminding everyone of the importance of due process. But it was a little too late to try to drag this on. The outcome? Well, it all ended on April 7, 2017, declaring Will guilty on 1 count of forcible harm and 2 counts of aggravated harm. Will got 3 life sentences and an additional 40 years of confinement behind bars. He tried to deny everything at first, but his words held no value anymore. And as soon as he realized that, he started to maintain an eerie silence, while his victims kept telling the whole world all the details of his crimes. The victims barely recounted the harrowing details of their prolonged ordeals at the hands of this once-loved TV personality. The younger victim barely described the repeated harm she endured in 2013 and 2014, while the older victim also recounted the nightmare of what happened to her in the early 90s when she was just a 12-year-old girl. These statements against Will in the final trial really shaped his final sentence. The judge slammed the gavel, delivering a verdict that left no room for doubt. But while Will might be staring down the prospect of spending the rest of his days behind bars, the legal battle is far from over. You might never know when the next victim springs up and adds up to his life sentences. As the dust settles on this high-profile case, one thing remains certain: the once-beloved show Sons of Gun is now nothing more than a distant memory, with Will's grim downfall leading to his abrupt cancellation in 2014. Who knew that behind the glitz and glam of reality TV lay such a dark and twisted tale of betrayal and horror? But let's not forget the man behind the headlines. Will, born and bred in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, sported an intriguing life story. What is surprising is that his childhood was marred by harm, which could explain his behavior and tendencies later in life. But whatever happened to him doesn't exactly excuse his horrible crimes. I think we can all agree that it's good that he ended up in prison for his actions. But what do you guys think? Did you know about Will's awful actions? Let me know in the comments below.